Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us once again. It's a beautiful Monday morning here from beautiful Jeffersonville, Indiana. I got a tractor next to me now.
He's out in the country, people. Noah has a
Really,
tractor. Fun fact.
yeah. Oh, yeah, baby. That's how I get to work. Is, come and take a ride on the big green
Big green.
tractor.
Yes, exactly. That's Noah.
Yeah, so I'm glad you guys are here. I appreciate that you're here because boy, did this weekend test us all, did it not? Now,
Yeah, it
Dominic,
did.
you're coming to us from lovely Carlisle, Ohio. We are recording this on Easter Sunday. Happy Easter! And how are you feeling coming off of a historic weekend of fights?
Yeah, it was historic and all the wrong reasons, it feels like.
Yeah.
So this Sunday just feels like a much needed day to detach almost from MMA, even though we're recording this on Sunday. But again, I guess you're gonna have bad weekends, but to have it doubled down between two different organizations, it felt like it was definitely, Noah said this off recording, one of the worst, most disappointing weekends we've had since this podcast started. Probably the worst, actually. So it was weird, but I'm happy to at least I get to discuss it with my good old co-host over there, Noah. So I'm excited to get rolling with you, man. Get into this new week, and hopefully this upcoming weekend we got UFC and Bellator again. Surely, Noah, it won't be like this weekend.
I, I'm holding my breath right now because, man, it just felt like everything that could go wrong did go wrong. I mean, obviously, we're going to get into it. We won't keep, looking at it big picture
Teasing.
here. But,
Yeah.
yeah, it just, I mean, literally everything. I mean, you got fighters giving shout outs to mob bosses or crime bosses in their post fight speeches, all the way to I went from having what looked like one of the best nights of my betting career turned into the absolute worst night by the end. Literally anything that could have went wrong did. But let's start with the main event of UFC Vegas 51.
Shall we?
That saw Belal Muhammad avenge his last loss in the UFC to Vicente Luque. That was on the prelims of UFC 205 from Madison Square Garden on Friday's show, or Thursday's show, excuse me. I said it, I thought it was on a big card, but I couldn't remember. And yep, UFC 205, Luque had gotten a first round knockout, less than a minute and a half into that first round. But here, Belal Muhammad gets the unanimous decision. Dominic, your thoughts on his performance and in your mind, based on the performance, based on the win streak, where he is in the rankings, how much closer did he get to a potential title shot?
Unfortunately, I just feel like Bilal will kind of stay where he is. I mean, he'll move up to number 5 technically come Tuesday morning, I should assume. So he'll be top 5. The win streak's great, but the performance just, I mean, it was a Belal Muhammad performance if you've seen him fight before, and he gets a lot of slack for it. But at the end of the day, he does go do what he has to do to get a victory, to get revenge against Vicente Luque. It was a huge win for him, arguably the biggest of his career, back to back, because he just beat Stephen Thompson as well. The Stephen Thompson win said a lot more to me than what this one did personally. I just felt like it was a much more emphatic type of performance. Obviously, this one went all 5 rounds, so he showed he can do that, and Luque did too, even though he came out on the losing side of things. But it just overall, he looked, a little different, moved around the octagon a lot more, used a lot more footwork, looked competent on the feet. It wasn't like he was outmatched by Luque, who, on paper you would think Luque holds a huge advantage on the feet. It didn't look like that necessarily in the cage, but he went to the bread and butter, man. The grappling, he had a takedown in all 5 rounds. And again, he did what he had to do. He got the decision victory. He held top control. Not too much damage, not too many threats with submissions or KOs, TKOs, but Belal Muhammad wins, and that's what he's been doing lately, man, is winning. So I guess there's got to be some respect in that somewhere.
I'm kind of shocked. I almost think that I'm about to have more compliments for his performance than you did, and this is very shocking. What a
180.
What a dilemma we find ourselves in here.
This weekend just screwed everything up.
I've been very critical of Belal Muhammad's fight style, just not really feeling like I could ever walk away all that. a lot of positive takeaways, but they're like surface level positive. Like there's really, I always feel like with Belal, there's always something missing. He doesn't have that finishing ability, which could be fine. Except it's always been kind of the same old with him. And he, we look, we're at the end of the day, there's a reason we watch the sport. We want to be entertained. We want to be excited about who we're watching. Belal doesn't always come through on that side of things. But here, Dominic, I actually think I have a lot more takeaways from this than the Stephen Thompson fight. I thought Belal looked much improved on the feet. He was, for at least a couple rounds of this fight, getting the better of the striking exchanges with Luque. Obviously, that didn't hold up for the whole fight. Round 3, Luque looked like he was potentially about to finish the fight. I mean, Muhammad was getting pieced up big time, but rounds 4 and 5, he comes right back. He was using basically it took Luque a long time to kind of even get comfortable in this fight.
Right.
Belal Muhammad was on his bike. He was he was bouncing around the cage, never staying stationary, not even once. Was picking his shots. Was very, very opportunistic with his takedowns and was very effective in securing those takedowns. Look, it's not a fight that I think a lot of people are gonna be clamoring to see more of. Come getting Belal his next fight, but it was an impressive victory. Vicente Luque is a guy I've been very high on for a long time.
Yeah.
And truthfully, and maybe we'll have some discussion about this, didn't really see a whole lot from Luque here. This was a disappointing performance, to say the least, from Vicente Luque. His first main event, technically this is Belal's second. The first one with Leon Edwards, we know kind of what happened there. So it was really Belal's first true main event, I guess, in that way. But, Luque has a style that we have always felt is like meant to be in a fight main event. And here he got it, and he was hesitant. He was low on the volume. His takedown defense wasn't there. When he started throwing in round 3, he looked great.
He looked so good in round 3.
But then rounds 4 and 5, it kind of went away again.
Yep.
And I don't know if he just came in flat. I don't know if it was Belal's style just kind of keeping him in a pretzel. But all in all, I'm going to give credit to Belal Muhammad and say, with this win, and as much as it surprised me every step of the way on this run he's been on, he's a top 5 welterweight in the world, as crazy as that is for me to say.
Yep.
But with all the compliments out of the way, I got to admit, I don't think this got him all that closer to a title shot. He's in a division ruled by the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world right now, Kamaru Usman. And it's kind of, Kamaru is the one that kind of picks and chooses probably a lot of who he wants to fight at this point. It looks like Leon Edwards will be next. I keep saying every episode because it's not official yet. But, Belal's in a weird spot because he called for a fight with Colby Covington.
That ain't happening.
I think there is a better chance that Belal Muhammad fights CM Punk in his next fight.
I saw someone say that. That might have been you. I saw say that.
That
was you last night.
I'm just being honest. I appreciate the call out because I get it. A lot of people
you want to get closer to the title.
Yeah, you want to get closer to the title. You know that's a big fight. I respect for, putting it out there. But Colby's not going to take that fight.
No.
Khamzat Chimaev's not going to take that fight.
No.
Well, Khamzat might, but I don't think the UFC will
they ain't
allow
doing
the fight to happen. The fight that would make the most sense is Gilbert Burns.
That's there it is. That's your division layout right there.
And you have actually a decent little story in there because at the Apex Saturday, Gilbert Burns was in attendance and he was
partners
shouting, calls to Vicente Luque while the fight was going on. So there's a bit of Gilbert trying to avenge his good friend Luque. And Gilbert Burns' stock has never been higher right now. So it kind of gives a chance. It keeps him active. because he's in a weird spot, right? Coming off that loss to Chimaev. And then for Belal, it kind of raises his stake a little bit, or it potentially could raise his name value, raise his stake, because he's getting a fight with Gilbert Burns. And if he wins, I mean, at that point,
then you're there
staring at a title eliminator or something.
Yeah.
So that's all that that's how everything kind of works out for me. Dominic, is there any chance the Colby Covington fight happens in your mind?
No. The division is actually following last night, whether you like the main event or not. The welterweight division is now pretty clear, if you ask me, because we're gonna, again, quotes, right? It's not official. Kamaru Leon in July. This definitely lines up Hamzat and Colby. They want to do that so badly, the UFC, and I think that both those guys would want that fight too. And now you have Gilbert Burns, Belal Muhammad. That's your top 6 fighters in the world right now at 170 pounds. There's your layout for going into the middle of 2022. It would sort itself out. It would clear it out a little bit. So I think that's the chance. Belal could maybe get another fight night main event against a guy like Gilbert, or like a featured bout on a pay-per-view. And it's a good fight. We saw Gilbert just test Hamzat Chimaev. Surely he's going to test Belal Muhammad, considering he likes to grapple as well. Not the same kind of style as Hamzat, but you get the gist of it. So I think that's the layout of the welterweight division, and that's what the UFC will likely do moving forward, I would assume.
I like that we're on the same page right now for the most part.
Yeah.
You know, it started off a little shaky. You were you were kind of ho hum on Bilal's performance, and I'm over here like reaping his praises. I mean, what's going on here?
I know, this is woo.
Now you know you have a weird card when the second headline for it isn't about any one specific fight, really. It's about look.
It was historic, though. It was.
Yeah, we did get a historic evening. Going in before Saturday night's card, the UFC had 4 technical decisions in their history. Mind you, they've been around since 1993.
Yeah.
There were 2 on this card. 2! And both were reffed by Big Dan Murgliata.
It's crazy.
It started with Martin Buday, the bidet. Spray a little water on your asshole.
Right.
Buday.
Right.
I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to make fun of his name. I gotta stop doing that. But he was dominating Chris Barnett.
Yes, he was.
It looked like he was about to get a finish. Chris Barnett had said to his corner in between rounds that he thought he had broken a rib or 2.
Oh, okay.
Martin, that was his. I mean, he was doing a great job of like clinching up, throwing knees to the body. So he did the same thing in round 3. Barnett kind of collapses, looking like a few more shots and it's over, and we get an illegal elbow to the back of the head.
Yep.
And then also and basically Chris Barnett not really able to continue. I mean, probably wiped out from the elbow to the back of the head, and more because he's dealing with broken ribs.
Yeah.
But he was unable to continue, essentially.
Right.
And the co-main event of
the co-main event, people.
2 guys making their UFC debuts. This was a great bit of matchmaking, I thought. You know, you got 2 guys coming off the Contender Series that looked very strong in their contract earning performances. I know it took Caio twice in the season to get it, but earned it, he did. And he looked fantastic. Another dominant performance here. Caio Bahayo, I'm going to say like Ohio with a B in front of it.
I think that's how it is. Yeah.
He looked phenomenal here. I mean,
yeah,
really,
he did.
What a statement performance. I thought he would have the striking advantage, but I thought Omar Gadzhiev would have that wrestling and submission advantage, a lot of leg locks. He's a judo black belt, I believe.
Yeah.
Bahayo
not at all.
dominated this fight everywhere it went. And this fight was fought on the mat for a vast majority of it.
Yeah.
And then we get to about a minute left in the fight, and Bahayo throws an illegal knee.
That was a bad one.
It was a bad one. And Omar Gadzhiev unable to continue. So both these fights Poor Dan Mugliata, I gotta admit. I mean, these are tough situations, right? You
Yeah,
gotta deal with
yeah.
two of them in the same card. So the first fight with Martin, Chris Barnett, he deemed the strike to the back of the head to be incidental. Therefore, the fight went to a technical decision.
Mm-hmm.
Martin Buday wins.
Because it happened so long into the fight that they then will score what has happened thus far.
Well, I don't even know if it matters. The length into the round isn't necessarily what matters, because I think as long as the round 3 started, that it could go to a technical decision. It's because an illegal strike ended the fight, but it wasn't. If he had said, if Dan Murgliata had said that was a what's the word, incidental? What's the opposite of incidental?
Like he did it on purpose, basically.
Yeah, like if he had deemed
intentional,
intentional. Thank you. If he had said it was an intentional blow to the back of the head, then it would have been a DQ finish, fight over. And Chris Barnett would have got a DQ win. Because he said it was incidental, and we were, I think, into round 3, it didn't matter how long into it, I don't think.
Yeah, I think the round thing only matters because it can no longer end in a no contest, I think, is where that comes into play, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're probably right. But I think all that matters is that it starts round 3. I know for a 5-round fight, it's as long as round 4 starts, which we'll talk about that later with Bellator. But
yeah, true.
Here, we were, I mean, I don't even know, it was like halfway through the round, or there might have been 2 minutes left in the round. So he said, incidental blow, technical decision, goes to Martin Buday's favor. Co-main event. They he takes a point.
Yes, almost immediately he did it.
Yeah, takes a point, which in my head, if you're taking a point from someone, that means you believe it to be intentional.
Yeah.
Or at least fight. I mean, I guess that's not always the case because, but there was no previous foul up to this point.
Right.
There was no warning or anything. Immediate point taken.
Yeah.
So then for him, once Omar Gadzhiev wasn't able to continue, he goes, well, it was an incidental foul, so we'll just have it go to the technical decision, judges' scorecards, where they all scored it for Ohio. I think most MMA fans are probably, at the end of the day, going to walk away feeling okay with these results because they feel in their mind the right guy won and the guy who was winning was going to win the fight. Yeah. But Dominic, in our position, I got to ask you, did Dan Murgliata make the right calls here?
Man, it's so interesting, right? Because we don't see this much. Again, we've had 4 total leading into this fight. So it's not like we can revisit a bunch of occasions and really break it down and compare. So, like, you know, if I just have to answer off the top of my head, what we need is consistency. And even these two, yes, they both ended in technical decisions, so they had the same result. They were handled completely differently rather than the same. And I know that they were different penalties, different fouls. But again, if it's an illegal strike that's going to immediately affect the fighter and the fight can't continue, I feel like that's the criteria to then treat them the same. And I get it. You probably don't want to disqualify fighters if it is incidental. But here's the thing, and I saw Justin Gaethje. I think, texted something similar, but I saw Justin Gaethje go on a big Twitter rant last night. And essentially what he's saying is, so we can win the first 2 rounds of a fight, and then in the 3rd round, we can just knee a downed opponent on purpose since it'll be ruled incidental, and we'll just get a decision victory anyway. We'll just get out of there. We won't have to, risk getting hit in the 3rd round, in the 5th round of a championship fight, whatever the case may be. And that's where he's kind of saying, so if that's the case, penalize them, disqualify them. It's a loss, no win money, nothing. You're done. You lose the fight. And I can't say that when I read that and saw it and he kind of put this whole thread together that I don't agree, man. Essentially saying I do agree is what I meant. I came out weird. So I agree. I think, let's get consistency here. No matter what the foul is, if it's going to affect the fight, if it's going to end the fight, it's a DQ. And at the end of the day, you run the fight back when the fighters are healthy. I think that's kind of the best justification for these types of situations. But again, it was just so wacky, so weird. We don't see this much. I'm curious to get your thoughts as well.
This was probably Dan Mergliotta's lowest moment as a referee, his lowest night. This was his worst night ever.
Yeah.
I mean, these are two absolute, inexcusable, terrible calls. The first one was bad enough, and then he doubled down with the co-main event and made it even worse.
Because of the point deduction.
Away. And then, you have replay, but you're not using it. Like, I don't understand. Like, especially in that first incident with Barnett and Boudet, you have replay at your
disposal.
You can use. Yeah. Why don't you go look?
Yeah.
See if the elbows, because if you're saying it's incidental, you're saying that because Barnett moved his head towards.
I heard them say that. Yeah.
Moved the back of his head towards the elbow. But go look at the replay and see.
Yeah, make sure.
It's there. It's right there. Just go look at it. We have it for a reason. He didn't do it. So, okay. All right. So all of a sudden that's an incidental foul. Then you get a literal hand on the mat.
This was clear. Yes.
I mean, this is Peter Yan's Aljamain Sterling.
Yes, exactly.
Territory here. He throws a vicious knee into Omar Gaziev's noggin, and he's unable to continue. And you say it was incidental again?
Yeah.
You know what I think the biggest problem is here, Dominic? The biggest problem is Dan Mergliotta shouldn't be allowed to make that kind of call if a illegal blow is incidental or not. I saw Daniel Cormier say during the broadcast that he had, I forget how he worded, he said, there's never been a shot that I threw that wasn't intentional.
To hurt my opponent. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's always been.
Right.
And I agree. Like, I think it's so weird that the rules allow referees to, like, determine intent. Like,
yeah.
What? It doesn't make sense at all. Like, look at both those situations. How could you make that judgment call without shadow of a doubt? I mean, you can't. You can't make that call. So, for one, it's a shame on the rules that they allow Dan Mergliotta to be in this position. And two, he didn't do his job correctly here. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Really, here's the thing too, is that it shouldn't matter what's going on in the fight. It shouldn't matter who's dominating who's winning the fight. If Chris Barnett was the one that landed the illegal shot, you take everything about the fight as the same, right? Boudet's been dominating.
Yeah.
But it's Barnett that lands that shot. Does Dan Mergliotta make the same call? Because I'm not convinced that he does. Because I think in his mind, a lot of it was, this fight is going a certain direction.
Yeah.
It is pretty clear a certain guy is about to win. I don't want to be the one that makes a call that makes either of these guys lose in Bahayo or Boudet.
Right. So it goes to the judges to determine
Go to the technical decision. Because it's like, this fight's a given. We know how it's going to go. I get it. Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't have called either of those two guys on the losing end to make a comeback. But you don't know. And that's not a referee's call to make. So this was a huge blunder on Dan Mergliotta. And I hate to be so critical of the guy because he seems like a nice guy.
He was also in the headbutting fight with Kevin Holland and Kyle Dawkins as well.
Oh, yeah.
So.
That was another one I had a lot of problems with. Yeah. See, that's another instance, though, where he's not using the fucking instant replay. Dan, come on, dog. We know you're good. But it doesn't mean that you see everything. It doesn't mean that you're able to judge everything at the split of a hair. You got to use that replay, dog. Come on.
So do we know, or is there any discussion anywhere, why? Because Peter Yan's got to be somewhere punching a hole through a wall right now after seeing last night, because he landed an illegal knee to a downed opponent against Aljamain Sterling. We all know the gist. They just had the rematch last week. And that's how he lost his title, because that was a disqualification. That happened in the 4th round, right, of the championship fight.
Mm-hmm.
is like, so what is the difference? Why did Peter Yan get disqualified and he loses, but then we see here with the illegal knee specifically, Caio Baralho, he lands an illegal knee, goes to a technical decision, he still wins the fight. Was there any discussions anywhere?
It's the argument that the, I don't was Herb Dean. Herb Dean was the ref of
I
Jan's
think
fight.
it was Herb. Yes.
When Jan threw that knee. Herb determined that knee was intentionally
Gotcha.
landed. While,
And so he disqualified
and I
Jan
think
himself.
there might be something to, if I remember right in the Jan Sterling fight, I believe Herb even said, "Don't knee him."
He's down, yeah.
But I know Peter Jans also doesn't speak English, so I mean, it's,
right.
That's not, or doesn't speak English very well, I should say.
Yeah.
So I'm not even gonna. But it was intentional versus
unintentional. Yes. Okay.
That's where this all boils down to, which is why, again, I think that shouldn't even be a part of the discussion here.
Because like you said,
or if an illegal shot ends the fight, the man who threw that illegal shot,
DQ.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, like that's just
because you can't determine intent. You can't read someone's mind and say, you know what? He did decide he was going to do that on purpose, or that was an accident. He didn't mean to.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you can't determine that.
Now I don't know what would be the difference between a DQ and like a no contest. I don't know if it all gets kind of confused in my head a little bit. Like because sometimes I've seen where it's a no contest, like the
Belal and
I guess it would be
Edwards.
I guess it would be like, for example, in the Bellator co-main event. It was a clash of heads, but neither guy was really at fault for it.
Right.
That's when you get a no contest. If something's committed, if a foul's committed, but it's, I guess, mostly probably a clash of heads of some sort, which may not be someone's fault. Remember when Davison and Benavidez, that kind of set up,
yes,
Davison's first victory. But neither guy was really at fault for that clash of heads. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
No contest. So, I guess that's kind of the difference. But I don't know. It's such a mess. This is, again, the kind of night where we love the sport so much, and then the worst parts of it are being exposed all on the same weekend. I mean, it's just really crazy.
It's unique. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Well, okay. Bellator 277 happened Friday. Let's start with the main event, Dominic. They ran it back coming off of last July, where AJ McKee rose to the top of the mountain, the Bellator mountain, the proverbial Bellator mountaintop, and defeated Patricio Pitbull in round one. He won the, I believe, featherweight Grand Prix.
Yep.
Won the featherweight world title.
Yep.
Looked like he had become the star that everyone thought he had. Rose into the phoenix. Rose from the ashes, right? They run it back here. The fight went a lot longer.
Yeah.
All 5 rounds. And ultimately, we get a brand new winner. Patricio Pitbull, this time the challenger, is now the new Bellator featherweight champion, refusing to let go of that belt, as he got the win over AJ McKee in a very close unanimous decision. I'm curious how you scored the fight, and maybe some major takeaways from the performances of both guys here.
I think the biggest takeaway is that because we discussed kind of on Thursday that passing of the torch, like, was it in the first fight, or was it, if McKee won the rematch, then it's like, okay, Pitbull, he had his run, now the future's here. Pitbull said, nah, I'm still here. He's still only 34 years old. He's got the experience. He's got all the accolades in Bellator. And he still put on a great performance, did what he had to do to win. I scored it for Pitbull. Now, I can't remember. I'd have to probably watch again to determine whether it's like a 4-1 or a 3-2. I think 2 judges did score it 4-1, though.
No, it was only 1.
1 4-1, 2 3-2.
Yeah, the 4-1 is pretty... You
yeah.
scored it 4-1. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, he had his moments. He had McKee hurt. He utilized grappling when he needed to. And at the end of the day, people were comparing, oh, well, the strike numbers say this, the strike numbers say that. You're a big guy to say, oh, it's not all comes down to how the striking numbers look. It's a round by round fight. I think people still struggle to see that in scoring even to this day. I even saw some people saying we just need to get rid of the 10-9 scoring system in general. Oh, well, hold on now. What are we doing with that? So I don't know. At the end of the day, I felt the right guy won. It's one apiece. But then you informed me of something else after the fight, so we might not even get the trilogy bout.
So I thought I scored it for Patricio Pitbull. I scored it 3-2. It was a very close fight. My bigger takeaway, I expected Pitbull to come out and make a better showing of himself this time, and he did. He fought a smart fight here. But I'm pretty disappointed in AJ McKee. Not because he lost. You know, Patricio Pitbull is still that good.
Yes.
It's not an easy fight. AJ McKee showed no sense of urgency here. And I mean, maybe I should back up a little bit. AJ McKee basically, maybe, yes, I get it, in the name of fight promotion or whatever, this week, he welcomed, all of these lofty comparisons. He was welcoming people asking about the UFC. He said,
Yep.
I want to be UFC champion. People were kind of comparing, how would AJ McKee and Patricio Pitbull do against Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway? That's been a discussion topic this week. After this fight, you can't tell me that either of these two guys would be the best Volkanovski or Max Holloway in the UFC. You just can't tell me that.
Nope.
AJ McKee there was no sense of urgency. I mean, for one, his corner telling him before the 5th round that you're up 4-0.
Yeah. What are we doing?
Come on, guys. I think it was his dad that told him that, if I remember who was. But, I mean, that's a red flag at best. You can call it a red flag.
Yeah.
This was a tough loss for McKee. I don't know if he was overlooking Pitbull. In a way, a lot of the talk, when you look back at these comments, it's easy to scrutinize him now because he lost the fight. But I don't know how much stock should be put on some of the things he said because, again, it's kind of just promoting a fight. But, I mean, he was saying that, he was feeling like he didn't even really need to train for some of these guys and stuff. And he felt like he was just that much better.
Yeah.
And the performance was a little flat. It really was. And it looks like this was it for him at featherweight. He said afterwards, outside of a huge money fight, was how he worded it, he had no interest in fighting at featherweight anymore. By the sound of it, he didn't think a trilogy bout with Pitbull would be that kind of fight. So it leaves this rivalry that we've gotten in a weird spot because we looked at it as the passing of the torch, right? That we felt like Patricio Pitbull, who had been probably the most accomplished fighter in Bellator's history, was passing the baton on to the new guy, the guy that was going to take over this company and be a huge star for them, and AJ McKee. But then AJ McKee loses the rematch, and now he's wanting to go up to lightweight. So I guess, what was the point of all this? Almost, it feels like I almost feel like we just kind of wasted the last 8 months. We just kind of a waste of time almost. It just feels like nothing was really resolved here. We're not going to get a trilogy bout to really determine maybe who the best is. I'm feeling a little like something's missing here. Do you kind of feel that way, or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely. How do you not? What fight is AJ McKee going to go fight at lightweight that's bigger than a trilogy with Patricio? Or are you going to go fight Pitbull's brother and try and take the lightweight belt? I mean, yeah, that'd be a big fight, but is it really bigger than a trilogy bout, to settle the score against the greatest Bellator fighter we've ever seen? I don't really know what McKee's expecting, money fight, quote-unquote, wise. And especially now, UFC probably ain't even looking at you. So I don't know kind of what is, So I don't know really what his plans are. I personally would like to see the rematch. I don't like when it's one apiece. I need something. I need it settled. So we'll see what happens, man. But like you said, you kind of put it perfectly. I just feel weird, a bit of emptiness, a hole, if you will.
Yeah,
I don't
there's
like
a
it.
hole. There's definitely a hole in this, like, these two fights, like the way they're kind of ending here. It feels like a lot's unresolved.
Yeah,
But it also feels like our combatants don't really care about resolving any of it. AJ McKee's the one that's saying, I want to go to lightweight. He's like, I'm done with this division. And I get it. It's a tough cut for him, though, to get to 145 pounds. So I understand why he wants to do it.
yeah,
And I think he'll probably be very lethal at that weight class. And I actually look forward to seeing him up there. I know that he had always intended to go up there, but I didn't necessarily expect him to just kind of, just relieve himself of 145 pounds that quickly.
yeah,
So I don't really know what's next. It's so, I really intended on wanting a third fight here, but it seems like that's not going to happen. So that might help out one of the guys we'll talk about later. But for now, Patricio Pitbull is back as your champion, and AJ McKee is likely about to move on to the lightweight division.
yeah. But Bellator's had its fair share of big cards, and they don't always end the best, and it doesn't get any better with this next subject either.
Well, I'm curious, Dominic, because you said you don't even think the UFC would look at AJ McKee. I still think AJ McKee would stack up to be like a top 5, top 6 guy in the UFC. It's just champion versus champion. I thought was, how highly I think of Alexander Volkanovski. I just thought that after that fight, that didn't tell me that he's in that league. But you're almost talking like you don't think AJ McKee is a top 10, top 15.
I look at Volkanovski, I look at Holloway, I look at Rodriguez, I look at Ortega. I'm even looking at guys like Calvin Kattar right now after his last performance. So I'm like, AJ McKee's good. Don't get me wrong. He's an amazing talent. He was 18-0. I don't care what organization you're in. If you're undefeated, you're doing something right. But after a performance like that, I don't know. I just think I think it needs to be viewed from him as a humbling experience. I don't know if it will be treated as such.
Okay. All right. I see you, Dom. I see you. All right. Let's talk about the co-main event for this card.
It doesn't get better.
No.
It gets worse.
The finals of our light heavyweight Grand Prix. We had so much promise, Dom. I remember this time last year when it was announced. And we saw Yoel Romero and Anthony Johnson. You had guys like Ryan Bader on there, Vadim Nemkov, Lyoto Machida.
Yeah.
All these guys, Corey Anderson, obviously, on there. This might be one of the more disappointing Grand Prix in a while. And as much as I love when people try to do tournaments, they always fucking fail.
Well, look at the bantamweight one that hasn't even started yet. That Bellator has. It's already in shambles.
We haven't got a fight. We haven't even got one fight for that, and already we've had like 6 different swaps in the lineup. It's unbelievable. There's a reason the UFC stopped doing tournaments.
Yes, apparently.
Because you never end up getting the fight you want. The sport is too volatile. The fighters, there's too many injuries that come up. It never works out. And here we are again. This time we get a finals matchup that looked, in my opinion, I thought higher of this matchup than you did. I thought this was to determine who the number 1 light heavyweight in the world is. Vadim Nemkov versus Corey Anderson. And it ends in a no contest. So, literally the people from Bellator, they were bringing out that big check that had Corey Anderson's name written on it, and then once
they posted about it and everything.
Once they figured out it was a no contest, they had to run it back to the back. This is a very Bellator moment. It's a very Bellator
yes, moment. I saw that a lot.
Well, for the fight itself, it ended at the very end. There was like 6 seconds left in round 3. But even Nemkov looked good in round 1. I thought he won that round. I thought he looked good. But then Corey Anderson looked phenomenal in rounds 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Looked like he was about to make Nemkov quit if I'm to be so forward about how he looked. And then he's trying to kind of move for position or looking to land an elbow or something, and the clash of heads occurs. Nasty cut on the eyebrow of Vadim Nemkov. Fight over. Corey Anderson's the one that brought attention to the cut, by the way.
True.
So, good guy Corey here kind of getting screwed. Nice guys always finish last, I guess.
Right, or second.
So you end up getting if this fight had gone into round 4, Dominic, if this had happened in the first minute of round 4, we're looking at a new champion and a new winner of our light heavyweight Grand Prix, Corey Anderson. So that's how close we were to that. So just your thoughts on this whole debacle and what's next for these two.
It's unfortunate, right? I think that's the word that just should be the banner for this whole weekend of events. But in this fight especially, it stings for Corey, man, because he had that run in the mill in the UFC with all the top contenders, won big fights but lost big fights, and then he came to Bellator, looked great, started 3-0, finished all 3 of his opponents. He was here against Vadim Nemkov, who I was talking about on Thursday could be the best light heavyweight in the world. I was kind of looking at him rather than Corey, and then Corey completely flipped the script. Yes, Vadim looked good in round 1, but man, Corey stuck to the game plan and it began to work, and he looked so good rounds 2 and 3, dominated truthfully both rounds. Like you said, looking like he was going to force Nemkov to quit almost. He was just with his pressure and pacing. So for that to happen, it's very unfortunate to not see Corey reach the mountaintop that it looked like he was fingertips away from grabbing hold of that belt and that $1 million check. No, I can't help but think that if they do run this back, $1 million no longer up for grabs. What do you think? I saw a lot of people saying if they run it back, it's going to suck for both these guys because the Grand Prix, it will no longer be kind of that prize there. And I would hope that Bellator would keep that on the line. I would hope that they do because there was no winner here. But if they didn't, I would just feel so wrong and so bad for both guys, no matter who.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong because I don't know if this has ever happened when you have a no contest in the final. That just means that since neither person was awarded the Grand Prix winner, it's going to be run back and it'll have the same stakes.
Okay, I hope so.
But it just is frustrating that you had it set up here. We had this huge card set up, and then you get this limp dick ending, and it's nobody's fault. I mean, again, it was incidental. This was incidental.
Yeah.
But man, my big takeaway here, if I want to rummage through all the negatives that I could focus on and how this is such a Bellator thing to happen, even though they're not even at fault here. I stand by it, Dom. I'm going to double down. Corey Anderson's the best light heavyweight in the world, and I think he was on his way to showing that after this night.
Yeah.
I know he's had his losses in the UFC, but light heavyweight is a division that's up for grabs in terms of guys vying for that pound-for-pound division top spot. Jan Blachowicz had a great claim to it. He had knocked out Corey Anderson. He had beaten all these guys. And then he loses to Glover Teixeira. Corey Anderson, take your pick, I guess. Yuri Prohaska, I'm sure we'll hopefully hear soon if that fight does come to fruition. Maybe Yuri gets a win there, and all of a sudden we're looking at him like the next guy. But right now, as it stands, based on the resume and how they're fighting at this moment, Corey Anderson's the number 1 pound for pound in my opinion. And
I respect that.
It's delaying the inevitable right now. This fight will be run back. We'll see if Nemkov can show us more in a second fight. Now he's got to look at this as a bit of a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
He's got more time to prepare, get his takedown defense in order, and hopefully make a better showing of himself.
Yep.
It's a gutting day for Corey Anderson. That's
very.
That just hurts. But we'll get the fight run back. Hopefully here, not before too long, and hopefully the Bantamweight Grand Prix can. You know what?
It starts this coming weekend, so we'll see.
We'll see. We got more from these two cards later. But we're going to talk about some fight announcements, Dominic. And it starts with Bellator. The bad news does not stop. Douglas Lima versus Jason Jackson is off of Bellator 281 on May 13th. They are planning, I believe, to just move this fight, so I don't think you're going to see any replacements. I don't know who's pulling out here.
Yeah.
But considering, I guess, for Jason Jackson, this is a tough pill to swallow because I don't know if he's the one that's hurt that's having to pull out, but Jason Jackson, it felt like this was his moment. He's on the card with the. I know Amasov has not in the title picture for now because he's he is literally on the front lines of the Ukrainian Russia issues, but you had this fight, Lima versus Jackson, underneath of a interim title fight, I believe is what it is now, between MVP and Logan Storley.
Yes. Yeah.
So this was Jason Jackson's moment if he were to show that he is next in line, right? Douglas Lima, a very well accomplished fighter in Bellator, a really good fighter for a long time, but a guy who's looked vulnerable as of late.
Yeah.
Fight doesn't happen. It's a tough one, right?
Yeah. It is for sure, and hopefully it's no serious injury on either side. Hopefully they keep it together. Obviously, like you said, that's kind of the plan. Like you said, this is Jason Jackson's opportunity to really shine, make a name for himself, prove that he is, title shot worthy should he beat a guy like Douglas Lima.
Well said. June 4th, we got our main event announced for UFC Fight Night. 2 top 10 heavyweights going toe-to-toe, Alexander Volkov and Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Your thoughts on this heavyweight main event?
Well, for Rozenstruik, he gets a bigger opportunity. He was scheduled to fight Marcin Tybura on the early prelims of UFC 273. I'm like, what the hell? But now he's going to a fight night main event against a guy in Volkov, a fresh matchup, which is kind of hard to come by these days in heavyweight. I mean, I guess there's some fresher blood now, but I'll be excited for this one. I don't know how it's going to go. Hopefully, it's not some drag out, boring fight. Volkov's usually relatively active. But for Rozenstruik, we've seen kind of both spectrums of him. When he went out against Sakai, he looked great and got the fight done early in the first. We've seen him also go the distance and not do much of anything. So we'll see how it plays out. I'd say for Volkov, it's a big chance for him to kind of, hold his ground, especially after getting, worked essentially by Aspinall. And Rozenstruik's had his ups and downs. Can he kind of put it together before it's too late? You don't like this main event, I know.
Did you even really buy it as you were saying those words there at the end? I feel like you didn't even believe it yourself.
I do.
Well, here's the thing. This is such a mid-main event. I mean, don't get me wrong. You guys know. I'm going to watch it. I'll be here talking about it, previewing it if it happens. Why is this the main event of the card? This does not make sense to be the main event of the card. Alexander Volkov and Jairzinho Rozenstruik, we do not need to see them go 5 rounds. We don't. There's no reason for it. Both guys have been in main events before. They've came up short, or, I can't even think of, I don't even know if they've ever won a main event spot.
Rozenstruik beat Sakai.
Rozenstruik, yep, there you go. And that was, good on him. But
yeah.
Why is this not a 3-round co-main event? Get a fight that needs to be a main event, a fight that needs to show us how someone looks under the 5 rounds, under the bright lights. These two have been there, done that. I like both fighters. I like that it's a fresh matchup, but I'm just critical of this being a main event. This is such a non-exciting main event. Can you disagree?
That's the biggest thing for... Yeah, so the biggest thing for you is not in the matchup itself; it's the main event slot.
The matchup's fine. I mean, it's great. Like, I don't even know if you have to sell it the way you were. Yes, Volkov's coming off a loss. Rozenstruik, is he coming off the loss to Curtis Blades?
Yes.
Well, we don't know for sure. So I think so, but I don't know. It really doesn't matter. I mean, both guys, you're right, have had their highs and lows in this division. All the more of a reason not to give them a main event spot because, neither of these guys. This main event, there's really not that much at stake. That's why when I was saying, like, you don't even believe what you're saying, do you? Is because it's like trying to find something that's not there. Like, really, sure, if Volkov wins, he's bounced back from the loss to Aspinall, but what's it really do for him?
Right.
If Rozenstruik wins, it puts him at number 7. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's nothing on the line here, really, outside of, like, a ranking spot, which in this heavyweight division, a guy like Rozenstruik, who's been so active, it seems like, over the last couple of years.
He's fought so much.
Yeah, he's like a newer guy into the top 10 out of all of them there, but he's fought like everybody. So if let's say he gets knocked out by Volkov in the first round, well, he might get matched up against Chris Daukaus next and knock him out, and all of a sudden he's fighting, after that he's fighting Stipe Miocic or something. I mean, it's just like, it doesn't, with heavyweight, these guys just kind of, the losses almost matter less because, it's such a volatile division with knockouts coming so much more frequently. I just don't care about this main event, but obviously, like, they're talented guys. They're guys who, Volkov, former Bellator heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
June 4th. It should be fought on the feet for almost all of it, so that could be interesting, but yeah, I just don't care.
Yeah.
And you are pretending like you care, but that's okay. I'm just kidding. Following that, June 25th.
Is this a main event?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Now, dare I say this? Is
I was going to say it.
I would say this is a fight that I'd be more on board with being a main event. Neil Magny, coming off of his tying, he tied GSP's record, right? Or did he surpass it?
I think he tied GSP, yep.
Tied GSP. This will be the fight for him to surpass GSP on all-time welterweight UFC wins. But it's going to come, it ain't going to come easy because he's going up against the biggest prospect at this point in the welterweight division, and Shavkat Rakhmonov. Neil Magny called for a fight with Khamzat Chimaev. The UFC said, well, we can't necessarily give you him, but we'll give you the next best thing.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Your thoughts on this fight? I mean, I don't think it'll be a main event. I just don't think they value it quite that much. And I get it. Like, Shavkat's definitely not got the name or the recognition that Khamzat would have.
Oh, and he should, though.
But he should. But I would love for this to be a main event. I wish this was the main event over Volkov Rozenstruik on that card. But
yeah,
I digress, Dominic. Your thoughts on this fight?
This is a great fight. It's the biggest test for Shavkat to really come in against. You're not going to find a more seasoned guy at 170 than Neil Magny, literally, with the numbers that he's put up. I saw the Pawn Stars meme rolling around MMA Twitter where it was like, Neil Magny calling for Khamzat, the bald guy, forget his name. I think Rick's his name on Pawn Stars. Best I can give you is Shavkat Rakhmonov. So, dude, respect to Neil Magny because he doesn't. He's fighting Max Griffin. He didn't need to do that. And Max Griffin wasn't even ranked. He could have came in and shot Neil Magny out of the rankings for all we know. Had he won that fight, great fight too. By the way, we got to see it. And then he's fighting here, Rakhmonov, a guy that's another up and comer. Yeah, he's a stud. He's great, but Neil Magny doesn't need to do this for him. He's doing Rakhmonov a service potentially should he come in and win by launching him into the top 10. So I'll always respect Neil Magny. He's truly the guy that will fight anyone, anywhere. I mean, this is a relatively quick turnaround. He just fought March 26th in a 3-round war, and he's going less than 3 months later in June against one of the most deadly prospects in the entire UFC. I'm excited for this one, man.
Yeah, I'm stoked for this fight, and it's not just because I think, it's an opportunity for Rakhmonov to get into the top 10. Sure, I do kind of favor him here, but let's be clear. I mean, there's a lot we still don't know about Shavkat. We have yet to see him taken into really a deep water. And Neil Magny is a guy to bring that out of you. We said that about Khamzat. It got to a point where we were like, okay, Neil Magny's probably just going to get smashed. But truthfully, here with Rakhmonov, we're in a spot where we don't know a ton about this guy. He is coming off a very highlight reel fashion finish of Carlston Harris. That was a great performance for him, but it was in the first round. Can we see how things go if he gets dragged into round 2 or round 3? Going against Neil Magny, who is the kind of guy to bring out the worst of his opponents sometimes. So It's a very interesting fight. I look forward to it. I would love if it was a 5-round main event, but it most certainly will not be.
Yeah, I agree.
Now we got some for the rest. Going back to the cards from the weekend, we'll start with Bellator this time. Aaron Pico
Woo.
getting a round 3 TKO of Adley Edwards, who was a late replacement here. Aaron Pico did what we wanted him to do. He came in, he dominated, he got the finish, and now Dominic, I think the question becomes: did he just potentially secure a number 1 contender spot with the departure of AJ McKee?
That's true. I forgot about that part where McKee said he's leaving featherweight, because on Thursday I was like, short notice guy, not ranked or anything. One more after this, because he was a minus 900 favorite. Pico was. It's like he's going to go out and win. To be fair, Edwards, so tough, man. He took punishment for like no other in that fight. So good on him. It's a tough loss, but he earned a lot of respect, I'm sure, from the Bellator brass as well. But yeah, man, Aaron Pico, he's coming into his all, man. That's 6 in a row now, I think. I think all of them have been via finish. Every single one of his professional wins have. So it very well could have been a title. Had he done that to a ranked guy, guarantee 100% I'd throw you into a title fight. But even against a debuting guy on short notice, he looked so good. And with McKee leaving, I could potentially still see a world where Bellator's like, you know what? Pitbull had his run in the mill with the new guy in McKee. Now let's give him the even newer guy in Aaron Pico. I could see it.
I think they'll give him one more fight before.
Yeah.
I wanted to. I thought I might come in here and say, no, just give him the shot. But Aaron Pico is a guy who, despite how young he is, he's very well experienced in Bellator. He's been on a lot of high-profile cards. We've seen him falter a few times. I mean, at one point in time, he was, I think, 4-3 in his career. I mean, things were looking a little bleak for what was at one time looked as maybe the best prospect in all of MMA. He's gotten back on track. I think he's won, 6 in a row?
Yep.
Yeah. He's fighting at the best, highest level we've seen him fight at, but this is not the opponent to get you a title fight, in my opinion. Now, I know that he was originally scheduled to fight, was it Jeremy Kennedy, or is that who he already fought?
I think that sounds right.
I can't remember if that's who he fought last or if that's who he was
supposed
to fight
true.
Here.
Yeah, I don't know.
But he was supposed to fight, obviously, an obvious ranked opponent, a tougher matchup. His opponent had to pull out with an injury, so in stepped. He stayed on the card. He took this fight with Adley Edwards, which Edwards had everything to prove here, looking to really show that he's not just some late replacement, some stepping stone. But Pico looked great. I just think you probably do one more against a top guy, and then we're talking Pitbull.
Yeah, I like it.
I want to get your thoughts on this fight from really early in the night. Rogelio Luna and Socrates Hernandez had one of the best fights I'd seen all year. It ends up with 3rd round TKO with 12 seconds left for Luna. Your thoughts on this fight?
It was awesome. It gave me Griffin Bonner vibes. I even saw Nolan King tweet about it. He's like, for those that don't know, Griffin and Bonner is fighting the Bellator version of it on the prelims. That's a bit far-fetched because that fight was a little bit closer, but this was still a phenomenal fight. What was weird is that this was Luna's professional debut. Never had a pro fight before. Socrates, it was only his 2nd professional fight. So, a bit weird that Bellator's doing that. I mean, they've done it in the past, obviously, but none, I feel like, have been kind of on the magnitude just because it was on such a big card, prelim-wise. And what a fight, man. Both guys so tough, especially Hernandez was taking a beating, but still threatened with takedowns and submissions. It's in the fight of the year discussion for sure. Bellator's had 3, for me personally, fight of the year so far throughout the first half of April. So it was just a great fight. 2 guys that are newer to the game, but they're kind of shining under the bright lights when no one else was really watching.
So I don't know if it'll end up being in the fight of the year discussion, because there's a part of me that feels like we tend to leave fight of the year for high profile matchups. Like a fight like this maybe doesn't have enough oomph behind it, but I definitely think it's a shoo-in for most surprising fight of the year. I mean, who thought this was going to be anything?
Yeah.
We got an absolute banger of a fight. Uh, Rogelio Luna and Socrates Hernandez, they both come out looking like studs. And Dominic, they did all of this for $1,000 each. I mean, that's just crazy. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make a statement on fighter pay here, but it just felt like when I heard that, like it felt like poetic almost. Like these two, like the money is not even what's really.
It's just the love of the game, man.
Yeah, like that. It's just the two guys that just love what they do, and I
Yeah.
respect it. Respect it a lot.
What a fight.
Back to the UFC we go. Andre Fiallo.
The bet slip buster.
Ruined a lot of people's bet slips on this night. He gets the TKO over Miguel Baeza in round number 1. Dominic, we knew this was a possibility because Miguel Baeza was on a 2-fight skid. He got finished in his last fight against Chaos Williams. Chaos Williams hits like a truck, by the way.
Yes.
But he's going up against Fiallo, who showed a lot of durability against... I always forget.
It was Michelle Pereira. Yeah.
And we knew that he would have a power advantage, perhaps. Early, Miguel Baeza looked probably better than we've ever seen him. The striking was phenomenal. But again, it seems like what really happened here was both guys' striking was good. And I would say Baeza's striking looked even better. I mean, crisper, landing combinations.
Yeah.
Fiallo had more power. He made his shots count more. That's all that it comes down to. Because he was able to get that head around the back, or hand around the back of the head of kind of clinch up with Baeza, landed 2 vicious uppercuts, and it was basically over.
Nasty.
Finished him off against the fence. It's a big first win for Fiallo. You know, both performances so far have been great. I don't remember if he got a fight of the night bonus for his fight with Pereira, but a lot of eyes were kind of drawn to him by what he was able to do in such short notice in that fight. Here he gets a performance of the night bonus, off to a great start, even though he's 1-1. But we got to talk about Miguel Baeza, who we both have been very high on for a long time.
Yeah,
he has now lost 3 in a row, 2 of them via finish. This was a fight where he apparently came in, made a lot of changes in the lead up. They were saying on the broadcast he changed up his social circle and everything. If you're Miguel Baeza, is where are you at right now?
Man, he's probably at this instance where he's kind of reevaluating everything again, potentially. Even though he may have just done that leading into this one. I'm not one to write him off and just say, he's done in the UFC. Yes, it's 3 losses in a row. It's still against good competition at the end of the day. This is a guy that surged very quickly, very young age. He was on Contender Series, won 3 straight via finish in his UFC career, but has faltered. And we've seen young guys falter before. I will say he could potentially be on the chopping block come the next fight, because then you're staring down the barrel of potentially 4 in a row. I think it's definitely going to be another step back in competition, even though this essentially was from Chaos Williams. I'd say even more of a step back into the next fight. But I still believe in Miguel Baeza, maybe not as high as I once did, because losing 3 in a row, you're going to see weaknesses that may not be fixed. And you can't help a chin if he gets hit in the right spot. And if a guy goes down, a guy goes down. So I'm very much just cautiously optimistic. I know you like that phrase, and I'm going to use it and steal it from you here on what could come next for Baeza. I hope it's not the end of the line yet. I'm not ready to give up hope.
I'm cautiously pessimistic right now. And here's why. I'm worried that Baeza's style, just his chin can't hold up to his style of fight. You see these fights, Dom, where like all-time fights or just fight of the nights, and both guys come out looking like kings, but sometimes they just don't recover.
Yeah,
you saw like a great example, and this is a more high-profile example. Look at Robbie Lawler's title reign when he fought Rory McDonald, one of the best fights of all time. Right? Was Rory McDonald really ever the same after that?
Right.
This was a guy who was looked at as the next GSP. Sure, he had some moments. I believe he's won a title for Bellator, but was he ever really that good again?
Right.
Look at when Carlos Condit and Robbie Lawler fought. neither of those guys were the same after that. Those
Yep.
guys took themselves to the brink. Carlos Condit, I believe it took him a few years to win a fight again.
Yep.
Robbie Lawler lost his next title defense in the first round to Tyron Woodley, and he was never in the title picture, even close to it after that.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if Miguel Baez's fight with Santiago Ponzinibbio might have been
What a fight. Yeah.
part of that.
That one. Yeah.
Because that fight, while yes, it's not the fight the two I just named, but that doesn't have to be. It was a fight of the night. It was a war, one of the best fights of the year. Miguel Baez, it might just been just a bit too much to where he just hasn't been able to recover. And that
Yeah.
But his style, as efficient as he is on the feet, he will eat a shot to get on. But it's unfortunately he's not able to eat the shots in order to give enough to win.
Right.
That's what you saw here. He was landing some great shots on Fialho, but Fialho is so durable. If he went up against a guy with the worst chin, he probably gets him out of there. But that's not the fight he got. And it has me cautiously pessimistic because of that. I still think Baeza has so much talent, and he seems to have a good head on his shoulders to understand that he, when he needs to change things in his life, and he seems very determined to make this thing work.
Yeah.
So I believe in him to make the appropriate changes. It's just a matter of if he's going to be able to withstand the punishment. That's really what it's going to come down to. So time will tell.
Yep.
Next up, Pat Sabatini remained undefeated in the UFC, getting a unanimous decision win over TJ Laramie, who is now 0-2 in the UFC. But I don't think that necessarily is a representative of his talent level. Round one, things were looking very dicey for Sabatini, I would say, because TJ Laramie kind of took it to him a little bit.
Yeah.
The striking looked good from Laramie. He was even getting the better of some grappling exchanges. Who would have saw that coming? But then kind of the inevitable kicked in. Pat Sabatini smothers people.
Yeah.
And Laramie was no different here. Rounds 2 and 3 were very dominant. I believe I had round 2 a 10-8 for Pat Sabatini. And
it was like 50-1 strikes landed in that round.
Yeah, round 3 was just as dominant too. So for Pat Sabatini, this was a big win over a guy who I think is UFC caliber. But is this the win that gets him in the top 15, Dom? Talking next fighting top 15 is what I mean.
I think he should. Because at the end, I think he's won 6 or 7 in a row. If you look outside when he came into the UFC, he's 4-0 in the UFC. And in the UFC, he smothers, he dominates people. Yes, he struggled in that first round, but once he landed that teep kick to the body toward the end of the first, that changed the whole outcome of the rest of the fight. And from then on, it was all Pat. The end of round 1, all the way through to the end, a 10-8 round in the middle there. So I would like to see him get tested against the top 15 because I think this guy, obviously the grappling's there. He's kind of that next level down there on the ground. His transitioning, his top control, everything that he does is so good down there on the canvas. Now, let's really up the competition level. I think top 15 is what he is deserving of next, to be truthful.
I'm sorry if anybody heard my ice maker just very loud. But yeah, completely agree. I thought Sabatini was ready for top 15 before this fight.
Yeah.
Hard to say it's changed following it. I want to see him get tougher tests. And TJ Laramie, it's a tough start, 0-2. Still think the guy's got a lot of talent, though.
I agree. Tough competition, too.
Yeah, you're giving him tough competition to start out. Maybe let him fight someone kind of entering the UFC. See how he does there. Next up, women's action. The Battle of Sweden. Pani Kianzad gets the unanimous decision win over Lena Landsberg. Actually, this was a rematch, Dominic. I didn't know this,
10 years
Pani
ago. They
had knocked out Lena Landsberg 10 years ago. So, and I believe there was a 10-year age difference. So, at that time, Lena Landsberg 30 in her prime, Pani 20 years old, or around that. Now here they are, Lena Landsberg at the tail end of her career at 40, Penny hitting her prime.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on this fight? It was kind of a bloody war for.
Yeah, man. Bloody battle, fun little scrap. Penny Kianzad, she's good, man. She's good. I don't know if like we're talking title holder good, but again, I feel like I've said this a lot on the betting show and on Thursday's show. There's not a lot of fresh life at 135 pounds in the women's division. She is one of the only bright spots in terms of just someone new, fresh, entering into this top 10 now. So I hope she gets a relatively big fight in terms of like numbered ranking next. I know she had that against Raquel Pennington and she lost, but you look at Rocky right now and she's really having this career resurgence. So all of a sudden that loss doesn't look as bad as probably because when it happened, you're like, Pennington's kind of already been at the top and she's kind of faltering back. So it was a tough loss. That loss doesn't, I don't view it the same way anymore. So Kianzad, she's won 5 out of her last 6 against good competition. I'm excited to see her get someone, maybe number 7, number 6, number 5 in her next fight. Let's push her up there a little bit.
Yeah, because she was in a new weight class for this one, right?
This was bantamweight.
Yeah, wasn't she? She was the one that lost to Manu Fierro in the last fight, right? Or
no, that was Mayra Bueno Silva. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting a women's fight.
But she did move up to bantamweight, yes.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Yeah, this was a good performance from Kianzad. Gutsy performance. Landsberg showing a lot of heart here, a lot of determination, considering she got knocked out by this girl 10 years ago when she was much more in her prime. Here at 40 years old, hung in there. And weirdly enough, though, Dominic, speaking of that other women's fight, the fight of the night was given to Mayra Bueno Silva and Wu
Was it?
And I don't see how that is at all. I thought that fight kind of sucked.
I would have given it to this fight, to be truthful, honestly.
Like, if you're going to give it to a women's fight, this was a much better fight, I thought.
Yeah, I agree.
Mayra Bueno, and like, there's a weird thing, which we can maybe talk about this now. I didn't put that fight on here, but I saw some people online acting like Wu Yanan got robbed in that scorecard, and I didn't even score a round for her. I had Mayra Bueno Silva 30-27.
That at the very least a 29-28, but I think I even scored it 30-27 for Mayra Bueno Silva.
Throwing at air
it wasn't like a terrible fight, but it wasn't what this fight was. I thought Silva won that fight.
I don't know. It was a weird one. I just saw a lot of chatter online.
Even for Silva, though, that you brought it up, that was her debut at 135. She doesn't look like a 135 build. I don't know. I'll be curious to see if she keeps that long term.
We'll see how she looks if she fights someone at tougher competition.
Because Wu Yanan's only been at bantamweight for 2 fights, so both of them are newer.
Wu Yanan's not like some, tender, at least not yet. So
yeah, I don't think that was a robbery though at all. No.
Drakkar Klose got a vicious TKO over Brandon Jenkins in round 2, 33 seconds in. He was the biggest favorite on the card.
You look like it.
He showed why.
Oh, that awkward pause there. Yeah, he looked good. This was his first finish in the UFC, by the way. So I know it was against a short notice guy, a no-name guy, if you will, coming in, and Brandon Jenkins making was it his debut for Brandon Jenkins?
Yeah, it was.
And
so a lot of people were saying that it's kind of watched his work outside the UFC, that this guy wasn't UFC caliber. And was that this fight? I will say Brandon Jenkins, this was weird, man. I mean, he was eating vicious punches.
Oh, yeah.
He was smiling and winking at the referee, like being like, oh, I'm good. It was like, dude, you are not good. You are getting pummeled here. Weird fight, but also a fantastic performance from Drakkar Klose.
Yeah, it's weird, dude. Like, he's 6-2 in the UFC, could be 7-1. He was beating Beneil Dariush until the Hail Mary finish that has that all-time moment on the commentary booth. So, like, I know this isn't, like, the highest level competition, but Drakkar Klose is, like, legitimate good talent for this division here. So
I agree. And, I feel bad for him because I didn't realize, like, we knew he got injured from that shove from Jeremy Stevens back in the day when they were supposed to fight. I didn't realize that, like, that's kept him out for, like, a year.
Yeah,
he
still dealing with it.
2 years.
Yeah.
I think the Beneil fight was his last fight before this one with Brandon Jenkins.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Well, I guess that would line up around that time. And apparently that shove from Jeremy Stevens like really fucked him up for a while. And
Yeah.
I like Jeremy Stevens, but man, that's just so uncalled for. It just
Oh yeah, man. You
you
don't
hate
want
to
to see
see that.
that.
Yeah. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for our recap of the action from the weekend, Dominic. Now, of course, I kind of forgot to do our intro
Oh yeah, we did.
in our intro, so I'm gonna remind everyone that they can follow me on Twitter, Instagram at ntbaker_. There's a link in the bio. You can look at the link tree. Shout out to today's sponsor, Anchor. They got links on there. Dominic, you want to plug your socials real quick?
Yeah, find me on Twitter, on Instagram at dslee14. And if you look above me on YouTube, if you're listening on audio, follow the podcast on Twitter, on Instagram at BAJ_MMA podcast.
And we're going to move into a new segment on the show, a way to kind of normally, now that we're doing our used to be outros, our intro, I wanted a better way to kind of wrap up the show. So we're going to do closing statements. This is something, it can be MMA related, it cannot be. Just whatever we want to get off our chest, we can just talk about. If there's anything going on in the world that we feel passionate or strongly about and want to talk about it, kind of allows us to, reach outside the MMA world a little bit. We can do it. So, Dominic, your closing statement for today.
Well, first and foremost, happy to be here with you, Noah, as always in the studio. Love nothing more than sitting down 2 or 3 times a week and talking the sport we love. I'm just hoping we have a better week next week in terms of fan perspective with the fights. 2 Bellator events, a UFC event, another UFC event that's kind of like this one. So we'll kind of see how it performs. A little under the radar, a couple better fights. But I just hope it's a better weekend. I hope it's a great week to all of you all out there watching. It's going to start getting sunny and 70 now, I've seen. So I'm trying to get out onto the golf course this week more than a couple times. And I'll probably still play like booty, but it's all part of the game, baby.
Well said, Dom. Well said. For my closing statement, I'm going to focus on Daniel Kinahan real quick. And I didn't really do this during the show, but there's been this really crazy kind of story going on that I don't think enough of us are really in the know of. I kind of found out through listening to some other podcasts, but Daniel Kinahan is essentially a guy that has really deep ties into the sport of boxing. He also has some ties into the sport of MMA, but he just got flagged by the U.S. government as being identified as one of the biggest crime lords in the whole world. There's a $5 million bounty for information that could lead to his arrest. And during our broadcast for UFC Vegas 51, on the main card, on ESPN, the network, Munir Lazez coming off a great victory. I like Munir Lazez's fight style. He's fun to watch. Here against Amlosa, he looked great. He gets on the mic and gives a personal shout out to Daniel Kinahan and thanks him for all he's done for him and how great he's been to him. And afterwards, at his post-fight presser, a reporter, I can't remember the end of it, the gentleman's name, but he pressed Lazez on this for about 3, 4, 5 minutes. And I've seen a lot of chatter online about, if the reporter was really should have done that, or if he should have just let it go. And you guys, I just think that if you're kind of in that camp of people that feel like he was overstepping here, then maybe you just don't quite get what this Kinahan guy is really, what's really at stake here. Because let's look at it selfishly as fans of the sport. You have a guy who's being identified by our government as one of the biggest crime lords in the world, and he has a deep tie, or at least he has his hands involved in some of the fighters of our favorite sport.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we've had some shady figures involved before. You got a lot of the Russian fighters and Kadyrov. You hear that a lot, brought up a lot. How like Khabib is kind of talking with some of these people that aren't maybe the best for the sport. Obviously, they're dictators or whatever. But here you had Lizez go on live TV on the network and give a personal shout out to this guy, and I just think that it's not a good look. Not a good look at all, because right now both sports, MMA and boxing, are trying to separate themselves from this guy, cut any ties from him that they can. And my fighter on the UFC's roster just gave him a shout out on the network. It's not a good look. There's probably more to come with this whole situation, but I just wanted to inform everybody, because I feel like a lot of people have been kind of going after the reporter on this, and I'm like, I don't really get it, because I feel like if you just do a little bit of research, you'll find that this guy that was given a personal shout out and talked about how great he was is kind of a monster. So keep that in mind. I understand it's easy to kind of back on reporters and stuff. We've done our fair share of that, but I definitely think there was cause for concern with this on this night.
There it is.
All right. Well, that was a deep way to end the show, but that's going to wrap it up here. We will be back on Thursday with the preview. 2 Bellator events this weekend and the UFC as well. Let's hope for a bounce back. But that's it. I'm out. I'm Noah B. That's Dominic Salee. We're the Below Average Joes. We'll see you on Thursday.